Um, Hello and welcome to Navigating the College Search with South Dakota Mines. Just some housekeeping things before we get started. This event will be recorded and we'll upload it to our YouTube channels afterwards. So without further ado, please welcome from the Office of Admissions, Molly Moore and Cicely Strong.
Thanks, Sarah. As Sarah said, my name is Molly Moore. I'm the Associate Vice President for Enrollment Management at Mines. So my job is really to oversee the recruiting process and then as well as financial aid, scholarships, and then our registrar's office. Cicely, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, my name is Cicely Strong. I'm the transfer coordinator, so I work with all of our transfer students coming in, those students that are being readmitted, coming back to South Dakota Mines, those students that are just looking to take a class as a non-degree seeking student.
Perfect. Okay, so what can you expect during this presentation? We are going to start off by talking about helping your student do career exploration. We know that depending on the high school that they're at, they may be getting some of that, but they may not be. And so we have some ideas on how you can expose them to more careers and throughout their high school experience. We'll talk a little bit about affordability and how you can start planning for paying for college. We'll talk about the importance of the campus visit and when to schedule those and some of your different options. Summer camps is something that we really push at the School of Mines, and we'll talk through some of our offerings that we have for this upcoming summer. And then we'll finish with a junior senior year timeline. If you're a visual person, it just kind of ties it all together so you can see what to expect and what you can kind of be planning for those last 2 years of your son or daughter's high school experience. We have time for questions at the end of this presentation. Likely it will maybe be 20 minutes or so, but because it's a very relatively small group, I would just ask that you ask your questions throughout. We're happy to stop and take those. So you can just use, Sarah, I don't know if you're monitoring that, but I think either the chat or the Q&A would be fine for you to input.
I'll watch the chatter. I'll watch both the chat and the Q&A.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Okay, so what do you want to study? So what is your student looking to study? There's a bunch of different ways for them to explore, what interests them. Counseling meetings, aptitude tests, shadowing. If there's something that they're looking at, maybe you have a friend in a specific department they could shadow, but figure out what sounds exciting. Are you going to want to work outside? You want to work at a desk? Are you wanting to be a manager? Are you wanting to be on the ground? There's a lot of different ways, to figure that out. And something that's really cool here at South Dakota Mines is that you don't have to know. A lot of students think that because we are a STEM school, they need to know that mechanical engineering is what they want to do. That's not the case. We actually have our undecided at Mines where they sit through a class their first semester that allows them to really dabble in a little bit of everything. The professors will talk to them from each department on sort of like a sales pitch, why they should pick them, the really cool things that they're doing in the departments, how much lab time they're going to have, what experiments they'll do, what the career will look like, where their alumni are being placed, what jobs they're having, and allow students to really figure out where they fit so they know that they're making the right decision for their future.
And I just want to chime in on that. So we had a freshman class of about 500 students this fall, and 50 students came in undecided. So we know that students are getting a lot of pressure to know exactly what they want to study, but really sometimes keeping your options open is the best option. And our students are taking a really similar curriculum, certainly their first semester and even their first full year. So there's just not that same pressure for them to know exactly what they want to do with the rest of their lives. So maybe giving your student that little pep talk would be good too. Anything else on this one?
Oh, yeah. So there's also Career and Professional Development Center, focusing on, degree exploration. Here at Mines, we also have 2 career fairs a year for our students. They've actually implemented an online and in-person version now. So students are really being able to reach far beyond just the companies that are able to come, but it allows them to start networking at a young, right away as freshmen, which not a lot of students have that option to if they go to different institutions. So really working, also creating personal advising to have not just their academic advisor, but more of a advisor regarding their professional development, where they see themselves, student success type of thing. We want to make sure that we're supporting the student fully, not just regarding their academics.
And I just have a couple of other things to add to this one slide. So we do offer students that are coming in so they've already applied and they're undecided throughout the summer before they would enroll. We typically do a series of webinars where they can log in and talk to a professor, generally the department head from a variety of majors, so that they can just get some more information before they would start at Mines. And so those will be ongoing, and we'll send lots of information about that. And that's, something that probably is happening across lots of different institutions, not just at the School of Mines. So something that they can, look forward to this summer before they enroll. And then that focus assessment that Cicely was talking about through the Career Center, that doesn't have to wait until a student is enrolled at Mines. So if they would be interested, they could take that. It's an online test they can take from home. And then we would have them partner or find a time to meet with one of our career professional development professionals to sit down and go through the results. That's really where the magic is the interpretation of those results. But the great thing is that really maps them to majors that most, to careers that most closely fit their personality, their aptitude, interest. And then it actually maps it back to, here are the degrees at the School of Mines that will help you get to that end result. So that's a really great tool. A lot of our students have taken advantage of and has helped given them some direction on the right major for them. Okay, anything else on that, Cicely? Okay, all right. So the next thing that we're going to get into is the cost of attendance. And so I thought it might be helpful to just break down what goes into each of the different categories that schools will typically talk to you about. So tuition and fees at the School of Mines, the way that we list ours, it's based on 30 credits per year. And that's on average what our students are taking. So if your son or daughter is taking more credits than 15, it's going to be slightly more expensive. If they're taking fewer, then it's going to be less expensive. So some institutions do that differently. They might be banded tuition, for example, like you pay the same amount for anything between like 12 and 15 credits or something like that. But ours is individual based on how many credits the student is taking. And other things that are included in that tuition and fees category would be a general activities fee. So your son or daughter would be able to use the Wellness Center. They would have access to our Student Success Center and all of the tutoring options that are available to them. They would also have access to our student health division. And so they could see the nurse practitioner or physician's assistant, and that's included in their costs. So there's a bunch of different things that are sort of all tied into that one category. As you're looking at other schools, it's not a bad idea to ask them, what fits into that piece, so that there's no hidden charges or things that you're surprised about later on. Books and supplies at Mines, this is pretty straightforward. The only thing that's really unique for this category for us is that we do have a laptop program, and it's a rental, and so that's included in the cost that we list here. So it's a mandatory program for your freshman, sophomore year, and then your junior, senior year, you would have the option to opt out. And we have not had many students that have taken that option. Once students have that laptop and the support on that laptop, it's hard. It would be hard to give that program up. And again, like any of the licensing for their programs like MATLAB or SolidWorks, CAD, those kinds of programs would be included in that charge. So that's a really good deal for our students. And then the last category, room and board. This is our standard double room charge, and then our basic meal plan. And so that would be another thing that I would recommend, that you're just getting clarification as you're looking at other institutions so that you know exactly what you're covering in their listed cost. So that gives you the grand total. And I don't know with our participants where you're calling in from, but there is a child of alumni rate. So those that don't already get in-state, like either you're from South Dakota or you're from one of our South Dakota Advantage states, which are the states that are pulled out here on the slide. If your child, if you are an alum, your child automatically will get that in-state rate, even if you're a non-resident. So that's something that happens automatically. When they fill out their application for admission, they will be asked to input your information, and then we will we'll match that up with the database, with the alumni database. And then as long as that matches up, then they're automatically granted that rate. There's no requirement for students to have a certain GPA or a certain number of credit hours to keep that rate the whole time that they're at the School of Mines. Okay, so you've seen the grand total, in which is a really affordable price, but it's still a lot of money per year. And it's more than your son or daughter has paid for anything probably in their entire lives. So the next slide, we just want to talk through some of your different options for funding their education and some sort of frequently talked about terms. One that gets thrown around a lot is the FAFSA. And so this stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. This is what students must complete to be eligible for a federal financial aid package, to include things like loans and grants. And this would open in October 1st of your student's senior year. There are a lot of resources at the high school level to help you complete this. I know that they've said that they've really tried to simplify the application over the last couple of years, but it still can be confusing. So there's a lot of resources. In fact, our financial aid office is a great one to answer questions, but they also go out and do presentations at some of our local high schools and walk families through the FAFSA so that you're getting help as you're doing it. Talk too much more about that. I don't think there's really any downsides to filling out that FAFSA at least the first year, just to see, what is available to a student. A lot of times I'll hear families say, well, I make too much money, I'm not going to be eligible for anything. But all students at least have the option for their loans through federal aid. So it's certainly worth it, at least for the first year, just to kind of get a sense of what your baseline is and what you might be eligible for. Scholarships. So there's different processes at each university. The way that South Dakota Mines handles scholarships is that students have to be accepted by January 15th of their senior year. And we have to have all supplemental materials. So ACT scores and high school transcripts have to be received by that date. Anybody who has a 3.0 or higher GPA, they will get an award. That's our current cutoff. And you can see our scholarship matrix it's listed on our website. We try to be pretty transparent about what students are eligible for, so that you can just have that to plan, be able to plan on that money. It's a 4-year commitment, as long as your student maintains a 3.0 GPA while they're at the institution, and they have to complete 24 Mines credit hours per year. So there's anything else, Cicely, that you would mention on the scholarship piece? Okay. And then just as far as what our process looks like, we are running scholarship letters currently this week, and our plan is to have them sent out by the early February. So families will be getting their scholarship offer letters soon in the mail. And then the other thing, our federal aid packaging, that goes out separately. And so that's through email. But that goes out in the month of February as well. So really, by mid to late February, students will have their full financial package to consider and compare with other institutions before they are pressured to make a decision. And that was one other thing that I'll mention. We don't ask for students to make a decision about where they're going to go until May 1st. That's sort of best practice within higher education and admissions. And so a student really has until then to be able to weigh all their options. I mean, we understand that this is a big decision and you want to get your high school visits, or excuse me, your college visits in, and you want to have all of your information, at your fingertips before you're making a final determination on what the right fit is. So there's no pressure. This is not vacuum sales. We want students to feel really good about, what their final decision is.
So visiting campus, we'd really love you, to bring your son or daughter back to come check it out. Great thing is that they get to hear, what it was like for you, but then they also get to experience what it could be like for them. Or anybody that who you think would really enjoy, being a South Dakota Mind student, we'd really encourage you to have them visit. It's a great way to just visualize if the student feels like we're the place for them or not. Sort of that feeling of home. If they get that there, we really would love them to be here. There's a couple different ways that you can visit. So you have your open house or go to Minds. This is a larger event where we have a student panel talk about things. We do an admissions overview. We have a campus tour. We have a couple department visit options where students can go and talk to different professors and get a little bit more of an in-depth understanding of what happens within each degree. And then they also can browse the fair where every department has a table, so they can also just talk, sort of figure out, what is metallurgical engineering, what is mining engineering, what is mechanical, what is biology, and sort of get to see, that there are more options out there than what they potentially even knew. The next option is a personalized visit. That's when they have a one-on-one meeting with an admissions counselor. We really talk through in depth a lot about South Dakota Minds and, talk through where they're at regarding if they're going to come in with dual credits, APs, stuff like that. We also get them again on a campus tour with one of our student ambassadors, and then we really work hard to try to get them to visit with whatever department they're interested in. So this is also a great way for a student who is trying to figure out what they're interested in. Maybe they've really always wanted mechanical engineering and then they did the tour and they're like, yes, this is it, or maybe not. Maybe they did too, and it was between, civil and electrical, and now that they know electrical is their place to be. So it's also a really great way to help them figure out, their potential path within, what their degree is going to do. You then have virtual visits. So sometimes it's not possible for everybody to come out and visit us, and we understand that. So we still want to be able to talk to you. So we have virtual visits, which is via Zoom. So we will set up, you can set that up on our website. All these can be set up on our website, and we'll talk one-on-one. We can even set up a virtual department tour. There's also a virtual campus tour that you can find on our website. We want to make sure that you can communicate with us and that we can support you through the admissions process even if you can't come in person.
I would just add that a lot of our students right now that are visiting campus are juniors. And so it's not too early to visit campus as a junior. So you're not feeling so much pressure to get that all squeezed into your senior year. We also have students that are younger than that. So it's not completely uncommon to meet with a sophomore that just, really wanted, or, maybe you're in the area seeing friends or, have family still here. We would be more than happy to accommodate a younger student. And again, that could be a really cool opportunity for them to get to meet with an academic department earlier on and know if that's the right path for them. So don't be shy about, getting your student in early to do the visit process. Am I talking about this, Cecily?
Sure.
Okay. So summer camps is another really great option for our students to have exposure to both South Dakota Minds and just to STEM in general. We have there's up to 25 options that we have this summer, and they're all this day camp model. And there's one that's no, excuse me, they're all day camp this summer, which basically means that your son or daughter starts at 9 and they typically end at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And then they go home with you or to the hotel with you in the evening. So they're not staying on campus. They're staying with you. And the great thing about this is there's a variety of options. There's a STEM exploration camp. So for those that are maybe a little bit earlier on in the process and they don't know exactly what majors they're interested in, they can attend that, where they'll just get I would say a sampling of different engineering options. And then we also have some that are very specific. So there's a rocket science camp, there's an atmospheric, wild weather camp. There's a plethora of options. So we would encourage you to have your son or daughter check out the options that are available. There are a few camps that are already getting close to filled. So if this is something that might be of interest, we would encourage you to get registered sooner rather than later. There are some scholarships that are available to students. What else am I missing, Cicely?
Isn't there one that's online?
We do have, yes, our mining, there's an explosives camp that they're doing completely online. There's also an in-person for that too, but that would be a good option for those that are further away and can't make it to campus. So we're really proud of the options. I mean, we went from having about 7 options in the past to having, much more for students to pick from. So encourage them. And then the other cool thing is that they're just meeting, other potential future classmates and students from all across, the country. It's not just South Dakota students that are coming to these camps. We have students from East and West coasts, and it's pretty impressive. And they really do, after a week together and being, usually they have pretty similar interests, if they're coming to, like, say, a geology camp, and they really do bond. And so it's just a cool way for them to connect with our faculty, see if that major is a good fit, and see how they feel about the campus as a whole. So another really good option. But again, these are not, we offer some great camps. Of course, I'm biased, but they do have camps like these at institutions across the country. So if there's one that's closer to home, that might work, please explore those options as well. And the last thing, the price point has really changed in these camps for us. They used to be about $1,000 a camp, and now they are around the $200 to $250 per week price range. So that, again, you might be, hopefully you could maybe even come out, you have family or friends that you want to see, or you could work remotely while your son or daughter is at this camp. Okay. Then this is the timeline that I had mentioned in the beginning. And so junior year is really a good time, for students to start attending college fairs and start doing their research, narrowing it down based on their major and what other factors are important to them. I didn't talk much about ACT or SAT, but this is a really good year also to just get an ACT or SAT under their belts. We have gone test optional technically, so students don't have to submit an ACT or essay or ACT to be admitted, but they do have to submit that for consideration for scholarships. So it's in their best interest to just, get that practice test done their junior year, and then have the opportunity to take it again, even through the summer or the early part of their senior year. The December test date usually is the one that gets to us by the scholarship deadline. So they have several that they could take even in the fall of their senior year, and it would still get to us. And I don't know how many of you have sons or daughters that have already applied for this year for fall of 22, but there are some important dates that are coming up in our timeline, and those include applying for housing and then getting registered for classes. And so for us, those things both open in February, but it's just important to be, looking for those deadlines at any institution so that you kind of have that sense. And we really do. We hope that when your student applies, that they include your contact information on the application. Please encourage them to do that, because we do have a pretty robust communication plan for parents. We want to keep you in the loop on the process and important deadlines and dates. We know it's a family decision oftentimes, and so we want to make sure that you feel included through that whole process. Anything else, Cicely, that you'd add on the timeline side?
No, but we really are here to support you. We're here, to make sure that you feel comfortable, and we know that there's a lot going on. So we just want to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks and that we can help you wherever we can with our application process. So next steps, connect with us. If your son or daughter's already applied, you know who our admissions counselor is, contact us. You can set up a virtual visit or in person. You can request materials to learn more, to sort of figure out, that general information. Again, what degrees specifically that we offer. Refer a friend. Again, if maybe you don't have a son or daughter, maybe you're thinking about your grandkids, whatever the situation may be. We'd really appreciate them coming out and talking with them. Maybe STEM's not for them, but they won't know until they come. So we'd love to meet them and help them as much as we can with getting into South Dakota Mines.
This is just if you wanted to screenshot this or take a picture of it. This is where you can, of course, our contact information, but then also how your student can find who their admissions counselor is. Any of us are happy to answer questions, but we do have admissions counselors assigned by geographic territory. So you can sure look us up that way. And then like Cicely had mentioned on this, I'll leave it on here for just a second. We do have that option for you to either refer a student to Mines, and so you can just submit their contact information, and what that does is gets them in our mailing list. And so we're starting to send communications, they get an information packet and whatnot. But then we also have an option for you to request a School of Mines recruiting brochure. And so we would be more than happy, if you have somebody that at work or church or something like that might be a good fit, and you'd like to be able to give them a brochure, we'd be more than happy to send those out. So the forms are on this alumni referral. If you see the link at the bottom of this slide, if you go there, then you're able to either request information or submit that student's information. So that's the best way that we found that we partner with alumni together on just getting some of those names to us. Okay, with that, we'll open it up if there are any questions. Be happy to answer some of those.
Thank you, Molly and Cicely. It's very informational. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or the Q&A, and we'd be happy to answer them for you. If they do have questions, or I know you put your, I believe, did you guys put your email addresses in the slide before this one? Possibly.
Nope, but we can sure share.
Can you put them in the chat just in case?
Mm-hmm.
Send them to everyone just in case they have questions. Thank you. They're a pretty quiet group today. That's okay. Well, if anyone has questions or anything, Molly and Cicely's emails are in the chat, or you can give them a call on which is 605-394-2414, and they'd be happy to answer any questions that you do have. So thank you, everyone. I lost my train of thought there.